Welcome to Pure Reselling Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 401. An update episode. After an update episode.
Back-to-back updates, and I think you can expect back-to-back themed episodes as well. Yep. I am going to be doing some traveling, and so one of the things that I've really loved about Pure Reselling Podcast, even though at times it can make it really challenging to do, but we have been very consistent. I don't think we've ever really missed a week. We've had like crazy. Maybe we've had like a week or two where we've like recycled material, but we didn't even just like replay an old episode. What we did is chopped things from old episodes and put it in to make something new, like a Bolo specific episode. So we've always had content coming out. So we're really excited. This is our update episode, which is where we get a chance to talk about the things that are going on in our life, reselling wise, things that are going on in the reselling world in general, and then talk about the spicy bolos, the things that you should be on the lookout when you are out at garage sales, thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, all the places you source the good stuff. So, Orlando, man, how are you doing?
I guess it's always good to start with me first because the podcast only gets better from here. So, sales. So let's talk about sales. Just get it out of the way. I feel like 3 updates in a row, it's been the same thing. And it is. Sales continue to decline for me. I say that with a smile. I'm not really sure what's happening. I had, over the last 3 days, probably, I think it was like $60 to $80 net profit. Okay, that's terrible. Like that is, I have no words. You know, I can understand if I had a store maybe of like 20 items, maybe 100. But I have close to 3,000. Now, I am under 3,000 because I've been trying to offload inventory to make sure that I have inventory that has good sell-through. I've been trying to, just liquidate some stuff that should have never been in there. And I've been listing. My, dynamic ad rates are on. There's no cap on my dynamic ad rates, and it's weird. I've told Mike I feel like I'm not a reseller except for the fact that I'm listing stuff. But the rest of the time, I can go hours without an eBay message, without an offer, and I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe Jamie Ione heard one of our podcasts, was like, all right, press that button. And, from then on, I've been kind of shadow banned on eBay. I understand. So it was funny because the other day I was driving and I was thinking about how terrible things were. And I go, this is where the people that have terrible comments on e-commerce bites come from. This is what happens to them, right? They get to this place. Now, I know things will rebound. I know things will improve. I've never had it this bad. I've had maybe a day or two of really not that many sales, and then things picked up. But lately, even before those 3 horrendous days, it's still been just terrible sales. And it's funny because you look at those 90-day, that 30-day graph that you get in Seller Hub, and you know how it has the bars and it shows you how much, right? And when people just show the bars, you really don't know what those bars mean, right? On certain months, I've had those bars mean $1,000, right? Like $1,000 in sales each day. This time it's like, wow, that's a big bar, but that only represents $200. Like that's terrible. Like it needs to be a lot higher. So I'm not really sure. I've been adjusting prices. I've run sales, I don't really know what's going on. I'm not going to blame eBay. I'm not going to say, oh, it's a glitch. Oh, it's, they're I love it when people are always like, they're working behind the scenes. Like, how do you know? Yeah. Did somebody call you and tell you that? Like, how do you know that? Right? I'm going to go with, I just have things that people maybe don't want to buy, and maybe the algorithm has not favored me for this time.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm thinking about, because I know for a fact your store is much bigger than my store. I don't get as many sales as you get on a regular basis. That's normal because I don't have as many items. I'm not listing as much as you. I'm the part-time reseller here. But even I've been getting, occasional sales coming through, and I just think like percentage-wise, and we know it's not always linear. It's not like, hey, you have 100 items in your store. When you get to 1,000, you're going to make 10 times more. It doesn't always work, perfect line like that. But I think you could have some good indicators that more items is going to equal more sales. And I know your inventory. I don't know your inventory very recent, But, you know, we used to do the podcast at your house. I spent a lot of time over there. You know, we've done Whatnot shows there. So I know you source good stuff. I see what you're sourcing on Instagram. I guess one of the things that I would look at, and I guess it would take some time, but it might give you some ideas, is I would look at maybe some of the inventory that you do have that you're surprised is not selling because your pricing is good. You've got good, you know, ads on, and then actually look those items up. Cause like we look up comps when we source the items, but I wonder what would happen if we looked up comps, like once we've listed them, like, okay, what is this item selling for now? Cause if you are seeing that item is still hot, it's still moving and yours isn't, that I think would then kind of vindicate some of the ideas. Okay, maybe something else is going on outside of my control. Now, if there hasn't been one of those items that have sold in the past 2 or 3 months, then that's more maybe of an indication of, hey, I just have the wrong item. But I mean, I know like when we're sourcing items, we're looking at the sell-through rate. We're looking, does this seem to be something that's moving? So it seems weird that all of your items would just drop off like that. I know you don't want to like start a new store or something, but I just wonder like how would that help? Would if you just like ran like almost as if you were a brand new reseller again with a new store, throw some items on there that have kind of been stale, but you know are still decent items, and just see if you get things moving, because then that might show that there is something else going on with the algorithm. Yeah,
I think my next plan of action is I'm going to turn off the sale for a day. And it's not like I'm going to be killing my sales. I'm going to reduce, you know, from having 3 sales to 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to change the price on as many things as, like you said, that should be selling. Right? Because I know, I would say there's probably 10, 15, maybe even 20% of inventory I probably shouldn't have picked up way back in the day, like in the early days, right? But I've sold a lot of the junk already. Like, you know, and you know, we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, where there aren't resellers out there just picking up junk, as far as I know. You know, when we talk on the Discord, no one's going like, "Hey, I didn't look up any comps, but this looked like a good deal, and I picked these up." I'm not sure anyone does that anymore, and so I'm not really sure what's happening. But I'm thinking is I'm going to reprice a ton of items, and then I'm going to run a sale. So what I'm going to do is right now I have 50% off on everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to actually put everything at, you know, like, let's say 45% off. And then I'm going to run like a 10% sale on top of that and see if that'll do anything, right? I do know eBay likes it when you run a sale. If you always should be running a sale at all times. I also know that eBay likes things when they're competitively priced. Not mean you have the lowest price on items, but at least they're within the vicinity of where they should be. So I'm not sure. We'll see. I'm not panicking. I know last year there was a kind of a panic, and I think I've gone through this many times where I realize that things are going to rebound. You know, next update episode, I'll tell you how I had the greatest, you know, summer month, and we'll just see what happens. But yeah, it's been weird. It's been weird not having to deal with messages, not having to deal with offers. That's been the weirdest part, because I remember on Sunday I hung out with my son at the beach. We were out there for like hours. And it's as if like eBay didn't exist. And usually I get some kind of, you know, some message or something. Nothing. Now, on top of that, though, you know, sourcing hasn't been too bad. You know, I had a nice local deal, a video game deal, which this was an interesting one. I always tell people, don't give up on local deals. You know, if somebody says, oh, somebody's coming by to look, I always let people know, hey, if things don't work out, hit me up, because there are so many flakes. Like all the time. And again, this was a lady. She had all her kids' video games, Nintendo GameCube, PlayStation 2, some Nintendo Wii, which Nintendo Wii is not that valuable. And this was posted for like 3 days. And I reached out thinking, oh, they probably sold all the good games or somebody got to it. Nope. I show up. And I'm like, hey, did people already buy some of these games that were in the picture? She's like, no, they're right here. She said, I got a lot of contacts. I got a lot of emails. I had one guy that we actually negotiated on the phone, and he was going to come pick them up and never picked them up. And so, and what was nice about that was she gave me how much that guy wanted to pay for everything. And since I was there on the spot, I was like, I know he offered you this, but I can't do that. I can do maybe we could split the difference on that. And I was able to pick up everything for about $120. It was about 30 to 40 video games, so about $30 a piece, and it worked out. So again, one of those things where you sometimes you see something, right, and you're going, wow, that's been on there for 10 days, 15 days. It's probably not, they probably forgot to take it down. You just never know. One of my best deals last year was somebody had a bunch of trains that they were trying to sell. And of these trains, they were all Lionel trains, like cars and stuff. And they had I think they had about 140 of them. But I thought, this has been posted for over 30 days. I reached out to them, and they said, oh, we sold like maybe 4 or 5. I said, oh, would you be willing to sell all of them? They're like, yeah, come by. Sure enough, went over, paid $500 for all of them. On top of that, I bought 8 vintage yo-yos that sold for 60 to 80 a piece. And so it worked out. So never hesitate, even though an ad's been there for a while. Now, there are some, you ever see those on OfferUp posted 2 years ago? And I'm like, why is this still posted? Like, doesn't OfferUp have some kind of system where they eliminate things?
Yeah, well, I had an old account on that that I had some stuff back that I listed in San Diego years and years ago, and occasionally I still will get like notifications, like emails of like,
really,
will you take this amount for this, or does this have the sunshade over it, or does this? And I'm like, that listing was from like 3 years ago. Like, I forgot I even had that. I should go delete that. It's pretty funny.
You're one of those guys. Sometimes I'll see incredible deals. I'm like, oh wow, it'll be like 100 Nintendo Game Boy, DS Game Boy Advance games in box.
Hey, but some of my better deals have been from things that have sat for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I use that as a negotiation point. If I see something that's over 30 days, when I show up, I'll tell them, hey, I saw your ad was here for 30 days. Have you had any interest? And depending on what they tell me, I kind of go, well, hey, I'm here today. I want to buy these. Can we make a deal that we can both walk away happy? Right, and it works out. So that's been good. I went to an estate sale, and it's the best estate sales you can go to are the ones where nothing is priced. Those are the ones you want to go to. The ones where they don't hire out a company, it's just a family, and they just want to move stuff. Gotta love those. I hate it when I go to an estate sale here in San Diego and they have those, what are those huge flag things? I don't know what you call those, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like the banners.
Yeah, the huge banners, and you already know, like, you're not going to get a deal.
Now, if it had one of those like used car salesmen like Dancy guys, that I don't know, you might get a deal there. That would be cool.
Does anybody get a deal at a used car salesman place? I'm not
no,
sure about
but
that.
I'm just saying, like, if you're crazy enough to have one of those things, that would be an interesting like if you had a garage sale or something to get people to come, is those, because I don't think they're too expensive. You can get some cheaper ones online. If you had like a booth at like a swap meet or something.
My kids love those dancing guys.
Right? Like how many people would you pull in with one of those?
Yeah.
There's probably rules against them at swap meets and stuff, I'm sure.
No, but a garage sale with one of those, like you could see it from like blocks away, like put it on your ceiling, on your roof.
You'd be able to offload so much of your stuff. And that was another thing I was going to tell you too, is like maybe think of some other ways of certain, like maybe not all of your items, but maybe like pick 10 or 15 items. I know you don't sell a lot locally. I know you buy a lot locally, but give it a shot. Like, try selling a handful of things locally that are just sitting there stale, especially if they're big items. And that could just get you that cash flow you need going again.
Yeah, I have about 5 or 6 CRT televisions, and I know if I sell those. So CRT televisions are old school televisions that are tubes that people, not tube televisions, but they're not flat screen, that people like because you get the best resolution with vintage video games on those. And, you sell them on eBay, you can sell them for $200 to $300 a piece. Locally, it's only $100 a piece. But if you're not selling them at all, might as well just sell them locally, So we'll see. What's funny to me is when people try to sell locally and they have eBay prices and stuff. And I'm like, who's going to pay you an eBay price? Like, I don't know. Do you see, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Or the biggest one I can't, now I'm going on a rant, but the biggest ones I can't stand is when people put $25 and it's like 10 video games. They're like, sweet, I'm going to buy that. You click on it and it's just clickbait.
Yeah, it's $25 for like the one item, and then each item's like individually priced.
Yes. Why?
Yeah. That happens a lot with board games too. Like there's times I'll see like a lot of board games and I'm like, oh man, that's a good price. And then you open it up and yeah, that's like what they want for one of the games. And then another game is this much. Then another game is, that kind of sucks for sure. I almost wish, almost wish there was some consistency, because like even some sites, like people putting free on things, or like
they do that too
price
now.
or $1.
Yes.
And then you click on it and then you don't know until you get in and read the description what the price is. There should be some kind of, I get that it's almost like advertising and marketing, but it's really frustrating when you're like trying to sort things maybe by lowest price. And I get that's why they do that, but then it makes the system almost unusable.
No, I agree. So that's pretty much it. So, hoping sales rebound. I'm going to continue sourcing. We're going to talk about that in a future theme episode, about the fact that if you're a full-time reseller, you have to continue sourcing. Like there's no option, because you have to continue listing. Even if sales are slow, you have to continue listing, because if things are really slow and then you actually stop listing, things will only get worse and snowball from there. So you got to be careful about that. All right. How are things for you?
Pretty good. I'm excited for this vacation I've got coming up here pretty soon. That's one of those things that, being a teacher, being a full-time educator, I got to take advantage of breaks, and I do use them a lot of times for reselling. But every once in a while, man, you really got to kind of just enjoy some time. So I'm excited for that. And I'm really excited right now. I talked about this our last update episode, and I actually talked about it probably when I first moved out here. Is I finally installed the mini split air conditioning unit in my garage. So my garage is half my gym, like what I use for like working out every morning. And the other half is eBay and podcasts. And then I have a shed in the backyard that I use for storing a lot more eBay stuff. And one of the things that has made that, it's nice having the space, but I bought one of those like stand-up air conditioners that like you put in a room and attach to a window, and I even drilled a hole in the garage door for it. And they're not effective at all in this kind of space, because what it ends up doing is it creates a vacuum in the room, pulls air from other places like the attic or outside. So they actually can make the room almost hotter or about the same. So I have been, even the podcast, like last year in the summer, I was dying for the podcast. Like if I knew we were going to be recording a podcast, or if I was going to do some eBay work, what I would do is I'd open the door to my garage, in the inside of the house, run the air conditioner on the inside of the house, run the air conditioner out here with a fan going for like a good 3 hours before the podcast started, to close it up and hope to get a little bit of time with cool. Now I've got this air conditioner installed, and it was a work. I did it all myself. But now my garage is colder than the inside of my house, and it's the summer in Central Texas. So I'm so excited to be able to get like reselling stuff done, because whenever you have an excuse not to do something hard, you're going to jump on those excuses, right? Like if you don't want to do something necessarily, it's not like something you love doing, any excuse you'll take. And, listing items and going out and organizing inventory isn't like life-giving. I do it because I make money, but I don't love listing items unless it's like I got a good find that I'm going to, make a ton of money on. So if it's also 120 degrees out in my garage, I'm like, I'm not going out there and digging for items and setting it up and listing stuff. Forget it. I'll do it tomorrow. But now I've got a space that I actually want to be in, because it's nice, it's comfortable, climate controlled. I would suggest it to anybody I know a lot of people use like sheds out in their yard or different things in order for storage. If it's a workspace, man, consider getting a mini split. It's great. So I think there's definitely going to be an increase in my eBay sales just from the fact that I'm going to be out here more. Like that makes a difference. And then, because we talk about that a lot, of having a organized and a comfortable place to do the work you're doing, it makes a huge difference. Just having a good atmosphere and environment is going to make an impact on the work you do. And then on top of that, reselling wise, man, I tell you what, like I feel like I was sleeping on that Crazy Hot Deals place. Like it is. So I've only been twice now. Since the last time we had an update episode. But it is interesting. So for those who don't know, the Crazy Hot Deals, at least here in our area, is the name of, and it's a chain, I think, but it's the name of the place. It's like the Amazon returns. And so it's a huge warehouse. People come in. It's a lot like Goodwill bins, but cleaner. Like I don't feel gross being in there, because it's not like, dirty clothes and stuff. But it feels a lot like the eBay bins, and the prices shift every day. The things get cheaper and cheaper, and then they restock once a week. They're closed during restocking day. The next day is like the highest price day. And so the very first time I went was on like the second to lowest price day. It was $1. Every item in the whole store was $1. And we picked up a handful of things. It was interesting that some of the stuff we got, but I wanted to see what it looked like on Friday. Friday is the day they restock. Now the bummer is, being a full-time teacher, I don't get to go Friday year round. I'm only going to get to do Fridays during breaks and during the summer. But I think this could potentially be a replacement for garage sales. Like if garage sales dip during the summer, which I'm kind of anticipating they might, if garage sales dip during the summer here, this I think will be a good alternative, because I picked up so much high quality stuff, $8 a piece. You just know when you're looking at something. It takes out a lot of the guesswork of like, can I make money on this? Can I not make money on this? And you like negotiating. I like negotiating, but sometimes it's just nice to know, like, if I'm going to pick up this item for $8, it needs to at least be able to sell for whatever, $45, $50 in order for me to feel like I made some money on it. Or that it's a good pickup. And if it's a bigger, bulkier item, well, I need to make more because it's going to be harder to ship. So you just have a couple of variables in your head as you're looking for stuff. And it's a lot like, somebody's told me, you know, when I mentioned it last time, and they were right, that it's kind of like Black Friday where people line up at the store. Yeah. So I got there about an hour before they opened. There was already a ton of people lined up. They hand out tickets and they do raffles throughout the day. And as soon as they opened the doors, everybody got a spot. I was amazed at how many people fit in. You line up at a bin. Every single bin is covered with their cloths.
So you don't get to go to any bin. You have one specified bin for you?
No. So you get to go to any bin you want to, but you just like there's all the bins are in line. So about 4 or 5 people per bin. Okay. But you can't see what's in the bins because they got them covered with cloth. And then they do a countdown, and as soon as they get to 0, then everybody rips off the cloths on their bins and they start going for it.
Dopamine hits on this.
I mean, it kind of is.
That'd be thrilling to me.
It's pretty exciting, but a lot of it is luck, right? Because like the person who was standing behind me in line got a flat screen TV, right? Like not a huge one, but probably like a 32-inch flat screen TV. One you'd pay like $120 for at a store, and they picked it up for $8, but they were just at the right bin. I didn't get there. So it's not like first come, first serve in that sense. I do think that if you want, like, cause they have like an electronics counter that's like specifically like higher end stuff, you could pay a little bit more. You could pay up kind of like, some stores we've been to before where they have like a special place you can go to for like the higher end behind, like Goodwill's will have like the behind the glass stuff. Yeah. So some of the people who lined up the earliest ran straight there because they were looking for like video game equipment and things like that. But the cool thing is, I was expecting like it was going to be lots of pushing and shoving, that it was going to be like, you're just brawling in there, but it really was, everybody was pretty, pretty nice, kind, and everybody's moving through the bins quickly. So like you almost just get to walk in a line. Like you look through your area and you just move down to the other end of your bin. You look through and then you move on to the next one, and everybody's moving so fast because everybody's wanting to see everything that you never feel like you're just stuck in one place and you can't get to another one, because whoever's at the other one you want to get to, they're about to move in a second anyways. So I was able to get through a lot of them, and then every half hour they roll out a new row of bins. So you're going through, and next thing you know, you see people start lining up. So you go get in a spot, new row of bins come out, you pull the things, you go again. And so there's always time, like even if you come a little bit later in the day, you still have a chance to get good stuff. In fact, one of the items that I picked up a like a sleeping bag, like a backpacking camping sleeping bag. Like, so they're like really, really small, compact, but they're like really decent. So you can use them in very cold weather. And they sell for like $250 new, or like $300 new, like $250 used. And this is new in package. It just had been opened, right? So it hadn't actually been like used or anything. It just like somebody opened it, probably took it out, put it back in, returned it to Amazon. And I picked it up for $8, right? And that was in one of the things that came out, like probably, I was there for probably a good 2.5 hours. And it was one of the later bins that came out. As soon as I pulled it, boom, I saw it, I grabbed it, I threw it in my basket. So it's been pretty cool. And the other thing that's weird about it though is, and I get why they do it, but they don't let you open boxes on the floor, like in the bins. And a lot of items don't even tell you what's inside the item. It's just like a brown box, and it might say like quantity 3 with like a code of some kind or some random numbers. So you don't even really necessarily know what the item is. And then you take all of your items you want, you bring it up to the front, like they have like a place where they'll open the boxes for you. You get to see what's inside it. If you want it, you take it back. If you don't want it, they put it in another bin and they put it back out on the floor. And they do that to keep everything together so that way people aren't ripping boxes open, losing pieces and stuff. So it's kind of nice they do it that way, but
so you have
kind
no
of
way
weird.
of knowing some things. So you
Some things, yeah,
just
you
doing
got no
mystery
idea.
box buys. You're paying $8,
But
and
you
it's
but you don't have to buy it though. Is the thing is you put it in your cart and then you have to go wait in another line to open up the boxes. So like you could fill your cart with like 50 items that you're not 100% sure what they are. You wait in that line, you get up to the table when it's your turn, they'll open those items for you, you get to look and you can be like, yes, I want it, or no, I don't. If
so
you don't
can-
want it,
you
they
can
take
turn
it.
away.
If you want it, then you put it in your cart and then you can pay for it. Yeah, so it just takes a little bit of time to like, wait in another line and open up the stuff. But it was an interesting experience. I really like it. I want to try a couple more days throughout the week. Obviously, I think their high price day is the best chance of getting the best inventory. But like I said, like my wife showed me, we were at Target yesterday and she showed me the sunscreen that we picked up when we were there for the Dollar Day. Right? It was free. We picked it up for $1. It was an unopened box. And she showed it to me at the store and it was $38 for that size of the sunscreen. $38, right? And we picked it up for $1. And that's on the second to lowest day. So I want to see maybe Saturday, there's still some opportunity to pick up some items. Or maybe this just becomes my summer like garage sale replacement day, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was pretty good. I picked up quite a few interesting items. I'm hoping some of them eventually turn into some hustles of the week because man, I picked up one item that I think I'm going to be able to sell for like $400.
Nice.
I paid $8 for it, right? It's a pretty good deal.
So are you able to share one item that like outside of the sleeping bag?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll share the big one then. So
well, you don't have to share the big one. Wait till hustle of the week, but just another one.
Okay. Okay. So another one I picked up. There were these massage stones, or not massage, like heated massage stones.
Okay.
And I couldn't. Again, like I said, you can't tell in the box. Like it just said kind of a little bit of description. So I'm looking up massage stones, heated massage stones on eBay, and there's a ton of them that are selling for like $25, $30. Right. So I'm like, this isn't worth it because this is like, I'm going to pay $8. I'm going to sell it for $30.
Yeah.
I'm going to make $5 profit by the time everything's done. So anyways, I had a feeling though, because this one had some other it was like electronic this and whatever. So I actually went and took it up to have them open it and look at it and get like the actual number to check up on eBay and Amazon. That's the nice thing too about the Crazy Hot Deals place is I actually use Amazon more than eBay for my initial determination of whether I want the item. And this specific kit on Amazon, because it's like fully electronic, you plug it in, it's got this really nice decorative case that like heats the stones that you use for these massages, and it's brand new. I mean, this thing's still in all the bubble wrapping and stuff. They sold for like $150 on Amazon.
Nice.
And eBay, they're selling for a little over $100 for new. And so I'm like, yeah, $8, I'll pick this up. Like little things like that. Like I picked up like 4 or 5 items that were like that, whereas like I paid $8, I'm probably going to make close to $100 on it. And so those kind of deals, like it's hard to pass up. I mean, that's just such a good thing. Another thing I picked up were like these, it's weird to say plasticware, like plastic silverware and bowls and plates and stuff.
Yeah.
But these were like special decorative. I think the brand is called like B&F or something like that. Anyways, they're for like weddings. Like people will buy them for like decorating or like really fancy parties, but they still are using plastic. And so like just the silverware portion of this kit sells for like $40 on Amazon. And I was able to pick up the bowls, the plates, all the silverware, $8. I think I'll be able to sell it for like $85, $90
Nice.
on eBay. So just little things like that I was able to pick up at a decent enough price. I mean, $8 is still kind of paying up. It's not necessarily garage sale prices.
Yeah, but it's cheaper than thrift stores. At least in
Cheaper
San
than thrift
Diego.
stores. Yeah.
In San Diego, I can't even get a Hawaiian shirt for $8 anymore, or a pair of decent shoes. It's crazy out here. So, wow. Okay, you're making me. I'm gonna check out the store that's nearby.
If it's the same kind of thing, if it's like where the prices like fluctuate throughout the week and they constantly descend as the inventory gets older, I would say check it out. I mean, it's like anything, you probably got to go a couple times.
We've had like I think 3 in the last like 6 months pop up around here. So I'm wondering. Is it just
I think
lot
it's a
of
new
junk?
thing.
I think on the West Coast is a new thing. I know in the Midwest there's a lot of them have been opening up because I have friends that live like in Wisconsin and Illinois, and they've been telling me they've been popping up for like years over there.
Yeah, I would say it's not just a lot of junk. There is a lot of junk, but I would say 2 to 5% of it is really high quality, decent stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, well, we'll stay tuned for that hustle of the week. Hey. There is an item out there, though, that outside of going to crazy hot deals, outside of going to garage sales, will save you money and will allow you to be profitable, and that's My Reseller Genie. And if you haven't signed up yet, you definitely should. Use our code Pure Hustle for 15% off the first month. And I know tax season is over, and people are like, oh, good, I'm done. I don't need it anymore. But the reality is, My Reseller Genie, was that?
I said start now.
Yeah, start now. It's something you want to have year round. And especially if you haven't been able to track your P&L, you haven't been able to track, your inventory, like how much did I buy that for? How much is it selling for now? My Reseller Genie allows you to do all that. It's created by 2 resellers. And so they definitely know what's going on. And they always are looking for feedback from resellers. We've been working with My Reseller Genie it's been a few years now. It's only been in the last year that it's been official, but ever since GoDaddy Bookkeeping went away, My Reseller Genie has been the number one place to keep your bookkeeping for reselling. So if you haven't checked them out yet, go to the link below, use our code Pure Hustle, and sign up for My Reseller Genie for 15% off the first month.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't have any random stories, so I think we should just jump into some reseller topics.
All right. You don't have any randoms. This is like this is a new one. For
I have one. Well, the only thing I'll say is this. The other day I got some gifts for my son, and he's almost done with like the Nintendo like Lego games. They're still cool to play. I play them as an adult with my kids. I don't know if on my own I'd play them. I'm just not me. But what I love about reselling is where the deals are. Right? If you've been reselling long enough, you're never going to pay full price for something. You're never going to pay full retail. So I had this Nintendo Wii U for a long time, and the gamepad on it has not been working for years. Well, a year ago, I sourced a whole Nintendo Wii U with a gamepad for $50. And I already sold like 4 of the games for about 200 plus, and everything else was pure profit. And so I wanted to buy my son some games that were for the Wii U, but I didn't have a Wii U that worked. And then I'm like, wait a second, I have this in my inventory, right? So instead of having to go out there and buy a Wii U from somebody for $100, whatever, I already had something. It was basically free, right? And I saved myself $100, right? And I do that all the time. When I was a vice principal and I had to have nice dress shoes, like I always got them thrifting, right? I'd be wearing like $300 shoes that I paid like $10 for. Right. So just remember that when you're out there reselling, look for stuff that's profitable, but there's something that you can buy that's going to save you money in the long term. Like it's worth you picking up because, you're going to save yourself a ton of money. One of the examples I can use is the Tommy Bahama beach chairs that they sell at Costco. At Costco, they're like, I don't know, $40-$50. I buy those all the time at garage sales for like $5. Like I probably have about 8 of them. And so I usually bring extras because when people go to the beach, sometimes they forget a chair. I'm like, oh, no, I got this one right here. And so just think about that. I got 8 chairs. I'm thinking about on average, I probably paid like $3 to $4 for each of those, so like $40. And one of those chairs at Costco would cost me $40. So that's kind of my random story, and I was able to save some money. I was able to use more money to get my son other gifts. And so you just never know how reselling will help you in the real world. All right, Before we do reseller topics, let's just get these out of the way. Hey, if you haven't yet signed up for us, Patreon, to help us out, we definitely appreciate it, especially in the summer months. Things get kind of brutal, like I've said, in reselling, or even, finding the time to do a podcast. And so if you want to help us out and support the podcast for $5.55 a month, that also gives you access to our Discord, which is filled with all kinds of resellers, people that are killing it. And that's what I love, is that when I post on there about how things are bad, they're like, well, Orlando, I've been doing really well and this is what I'm doing. Right. And it's kind of, how can I say this? The word is admonish, but it's a kind of to like, hey, get your act together, Orlando. Like, if I can do well, you can do well too. And so it's a very encouraging place. It's a great place for bolos, hustle of the week, just places to rant, random stories. So check us out. Sign up on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Podcast for $5.55 a month. And as always, you can give us a call at 619-738-1170. Shoot us an email at purespodcast@gmail.com. We're on all social media as Pure Hustle Podcast. On Exo, we are Pure Hustle Cast. And as always, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that bell notification, especially now because our lives have been all over the place, right? Sometimes they're on Mondays, sometimes on Tuesdays, sometimes they're late Mondays. You don't want to miss them, so make sure to hit that bell notification. And as always, grateful for all the iTunes reviews. All right, let's go to our reseller topics.
Wait, are you just going to assume I don't have a random story, man?
Oh, sorry. My bad. Okay.
That's messed up.
What is your random story?
That's messed up, man. Hurt my feelings.
Well,
okay, so this is not necessarily super random, but it is kind of something that I feel like sometimes we forget as resellers. So when I was at the Crazy Hot Deals, I'm waiting in line to get my some of my boxes open, and the lady behind me is opening up some of her boxes, like in line, and I'm kind of doing the same thing, peeking in some things, you know. And I assumed right off the bat, like, she has a cart full of stuff that, like, okay, this is a reseller, right? And you can kind of tell, like, you can spot out and sniff resellers pretty easily.
Oh, always.
But then I started talking to her because I actually had opened up an item and looked at it, and she asked what it was. And so I told her it was this like big dog bed canopy tent thing that's like an outdoor. And I didn't end up wanting it because they don't sell for very much. She's like, oh, my dog would love that. So I gave it to her anyways. But anyways, I was just chatting with her, and she was explaining that she was there because she was opening up I almost said a bed and breakfast, an Airbnb, which I guess technically is B&B, bed and breakfast. But anyways, she's opening up an Airbnb somewhere in town, and she's like, I needed to get some stuff for the house. Like, I needed to get like linen. I needed to get some various things. And she's like, so I'm picking up stuff here. And I kind of looked around at other people, and I'm like, I wonder how many of these people that I'm like, these are resellers, and I kind of look at as competition, actually just aren't, you know, that they're just trying to buy stuff for themselves. They're trying to get good deals. Some people just love shopping, and so they'll do it if they think they can get a good deal. Other people are like that, where they're trying to furnish a house. And so it's just like a reminder that at times that we can often think everyone is our competition, and it's not always the case, right? Like, some people have other reasons for being at a thrift store or a garage sale. And so I think you can almost get paranoid as a reseller that, like, everybody's trying to buy the item you're trying to buy to sell it and flip it for a bunch of money.
Oh,
but
no,
that's not what everybody's doing. So,
no, especially garage sales. Like, all the time I'll go to a garage and I see people, I'm like, oh no, I'm going to miss out. You know, and like, no one thinks about, hey, I need to pick up some Hot Wheels red lines, or nobody takes a look at, you know, we talk about bolos all the time on here. And I'll automatically in my mind, I'm like, oh, I might as well give up. Like, these people know about all the bolos that are here. And it's like, no, they don't. Like, even if they are resellers, not all resellers are looking for the same thing. Right? I mean, here in San Diego, you know, there are people that just strictly want furniture. Like, that's all they're looking for. And you don't find that out until they come out with their truck and they start stacking the truck full of furniture. Mm-hmm. Right? So I agree with you. That's a good observation.
All right. Now we can get to the part that we've all been waiting for. Let's see if I can get this. Here we go. The National Retail Federation return report is in. Retailers are cutting prices, and more people are turning to thrift stores. All of this and more on Reseller News. Orlando, take it away.
Okay, so I posted this on Insta the other day, and it's always interesting with returns because I think things have changed. There was a time where ever I posted anything about returns, we would get so much hate. Like, what? I never do returns. I've been selling on eBay for 10 years, 0 returns, no problems. But things have changed. And eBay has very much been very clear. If you want to be a top-rated seller, you have to accept returns. All right? So a lot of people had to, you know, kicking and screaming, have to accept returns. But I always want to remind people, this is just business. This is the way it goes. And the National Retail Federation, which is one of those big groups that, you know, they're in charge of like Macy's and all these big retail stores and stuff. Well, they came out with a report. And in this report, let me read what it says. Released today by the National Retail Federation and Apprise Retail, a percentage of sales, the total return rate for 2023 was 14.5%. And that's in retail. Now, things do change. According to the report, for every $1 billion in sales, the average retailer incurs $145 million in merchandise returns. Online sales do see a higher return rate with 17.6%, or $247 billion of merchandise purchased online returned. That compares with 10% for pure brick and mortar, or $371 billion. So I looked at this and I thought, okay, well, this isn't bad at all. right? Now, some people might go like, wow, 17%. But you have to remember that 17% includes, the other 70 or whatever, 60% of eBay retailers that sell brand new items, right? Think about Amazon. I return stuff on Amazon all the time. I know people aren't going to like hearing that, but, it's so easy. It's so easy. But you know what that gets me to do? That gets me to keep buying from Amazon. Right, I keep a lot of the stuff, right? But I'll return stuff. For example, I bought a shirt the other day, and it was supposed to be. You're gonna hate me for this. I thought it was gonna be like a deep blue, but it was like some teal blue, and I'm like, I don't want this shirt, and I just returned it, right? And a lot of resellers be like, "What? How can we return that?" Well, guess what? I returned that one, and then I found another shirt I wanted, and I bought that one, and then I found another one that I wanted, and I bought that one. So in the end, Amazon made money. Now, did that affect the third-party seller? Very possible, right? They probably have to find a way to sell on eBay now because I ended up returning it. But the reality is, and we've talked about this many times, is when you allow for returns in your eBay store, your sales usually go up, but your return rate does not go up, right? It's very rare. I would say if your return rate goes past 20%, I don't think the problem is buyers. I think the problem is maybe on the inventory that you're selling, or maybe you're missing something. I think my return rate's like 7%. It's really low. And even when I was selling a ton of clothing, I don't think it ever got above 10%. So I saw this and I go, okay, this is just the way business is going to be. And it was interesting looking at the returns. It said, because a lot of people are like, oh, don't sell on eBay, you're going to get scammed, or I always have to deal with scammers. And on here, they listed the reasons for return. So I'm going to read that real quick. It said, among the types of return fraud retailers say they've experienced in the past year, nearly half cited returns of used, non-defective merchandise, also known as wardrobing. So I'm guessing this is stuff that people buy, like they kind of rent it and then they return it. 44% cited the return of shoplifted or stolen merchandise. Over 1/3, 37%, said they experienced returns of merchandise purchased on fraudulent or stolen tender, and 1/5 said they have experienced return fraud from organized retail crime groups. None of those listed returns where it was a rock in a box, like that, or sand in a box. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but that's rare. So if you look at this, right, for us resellers that we sell vintage goods, I would say we probably never encounter somebody that is using a stolen credit card or somebody, that is trying to like scam us out of our inventory by using some kind of fake money or whatever. Right? We don't have those problems. Generally, when we have returns, it's somebody doesn't like it doesn't fit, not that big of a deal.
I mean, there are people who will abuse the system, of course. I think what you're saying is the types of scams that we see aren't as like organized and focused. I mean, there's whole rings of people who work on, stealing things from stores using receipts that they got out of trash cans, as if like there's those types of things, or people returning things they didn't buy, and then they go and return the thing they stole and end up getting money, so there are a lot of scams that people will do that are more organized, that tend to target bigger retailers more often. Now, I'm sure there are still people who are going to be able to scam smaller time resellers. It's just not going to be as numerous. It's not going to happen as often. So I'm certain there are people who are listening to our podcast right now who've been scammed. I think we all have had the normal ones, like somebody broke something and then said that we sent it broke, or returned something in a worse condition than we sent it to them. So those types of things certainly happen. But I think that you just don't see them as often as a big retailer is.
But even those are rare. Like I was thinking the other day, I've had in the last 3 months, maybe 6 returns, right? Out of, I don't know how many items, hundreds of thousands, not thousands, but hundreds of items. Okay. And all of them were legit. One was shoes didn't fit. One was, I thought I liked the color on this and I didn't like it. Like, to me, that's not a scam. That's just preference. So I just want to encourage people, don't be scared. It's just, it allows for buyer confidence. It causes people to want to buy from you because they know things don't work out. I heard somebody, I forget what I was listening to or watching, but I've heard this many times, is that even the long return windows, they actually work to your benefit. Because the longer somebody has, the longer they keep the item, that eventually over time they're just like, I'm not going to return this, right? There's no point. Now, there are people that will wait till day 30 and they'll open the return. That does happen. But I think that's more the exception than the rule. All right, so we talked about this next thing on our live this previous Monday, and it was a lively conversation. I am anticipating that we're going to have more deflation in eBay. And so let me read this headline. So this is from Forbes. It says Walgreens joins Target, Amazon, Walmart in announcing steep summer price cuts. Okay, and so what's taking place is all these stores right now have realized that obviously the economy is changing, right? Debt's at an all-time high. Inflation is still around. People are still struggling. And so now people are trying to just figure out ways, right, to buy stuff. And they're not going to Target, which is, you think they would go because it's a discount, or they're not going to Walmart. Maybe they're trying to find other ways to do it. And so Target and Amazon, all these places are now cutting prices. So what does that tell me? That tells me that they're anticipating that in order to stay in business, in order to keep making money, they're going to have to lower their prices on items because they probably have an influx of inventory now, and it's going to cause a dip. Right? We talked about this even like a few years ago, how, you know, initially prices went really high for stuff. You know, the other day I was looking at swimming pools at Walmart, and I remember when you could buy a swimming pool for like $200-$300, and during the era of 2020, you could sell it for like $1,000. Right? Those days are gone because now there are pools everywhere. Right. And no one's needing a pool to, you know, stay away from people. And so the prices have dropped. And I think that's the case here now as people are spending less because of a constrained economy. You end up having deflation, which takes place. So let me read this real quick. This is actually from Fox 5 New York. They said on Wednesday, Walgreens announced that the company would lower prices on more than 1,000 national and store brand products, joining giants like Walmart, Target, Aldi, and Amazon Fresh, who have been offering their own share of savings for customers. But is this change a sign of slowing inflation? And so their consumer expert said, now whether people are seeing the savings is still undecided. When I look at the list of what the price reductions were at these stores, like Target, for example, and they weren't huge. They were like 60 cents off a huge pack of goldfish. But I think a lot of these retailers now realize we went a little too far here, and consumers have been stubborn themselves. They've been paying for these goods and services, but we're coming to the end of the rope. Now, this is one report. I saw another report. They just saw that people weren't buying. And so they realized they're going to have an over an abundance of inventory. And if they don't sell it now, they're going to be in a bigger problem later on because if they can't sell it now, their prices are going to collapse even more because there's going to be even more. It says, but if prices are dropping, it could be more about the company's bottom line and marketing rather than the morals. So there's also people saying it's corporate greed. I'm kind of in this scenario of like, I just think it's just people are finding ways to make their dollar stretch, right? So instead of, you know, whenever they need something, they're like, oh, you know, we're out of ranch. Well, let's use some ketchup or whatever it is. You know, I'm just giving a very basic example, but I think of like even of clothing, right? You know, if you buy good quality clothing, right, and they last you, you're not always going to be buying new clothing. Or, you know, when it comes to video games, instead of buying, you know, brand new, you're going to look for used video games. And so I think this is kind of having an effect on twofold. I do think more people are going to be turning to eBay and so on. But I think what's going to happen is prices are going to dip even more. So things that, you know, for example, we've talked about, I'll give you an example. Yeah, let's talk about video games, right? Video games that you could sell for maybe $80 back in 2020 during that era, right? Then after that, people weren't as interested until the prices dropped even more. And maybe you could sell that game for $50. But now, since, you know, people aren't necessarily buying as much as they used to, and we know that, the reason we know that, we talked about this in the live, is that eBay's growth as far as gross merchandise value has been flat. Like eBay hasn't made more money from reselling. They made more money off of promoted listings and fees, but as far as selling more, that hasn't happened. So what's taking place? Well, there's an overabundance of inventory, which means prices are continue to drop. So I anticipate that's going to be the case. That tells me I need to run more sales this summer. That tells me I need to be more aggressive with my offers and maybe that's why my sales have been so slow, because I've not cut my prices enough. So there's that. Any thoughts on that one, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to determine when it comes to things like the economy and what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I agree.
It's so tough to determine. I think that, you know, the symptoms, like I remember reading the articles about the Target thing, you know, for instance, of them cutting prices on items. And then, I looked at those exact items and it's like, okay, this isn't big, right? This is like 30 cents on this item, 60 cents on this item. But again, it's those things that they're doing in order to get people into the store. Cause that's the hard part right now is they're trying to get people into the store. They're trying to get people to go to them, to buy other things, right? They're willing to potentially break even or get closer to breaking even, to make less profit, to have those loss leaders in order to get people into the store. And that's a telling thing when it comes to people's spending habits. And that's an important thing for us as resellers to be paying attention to, is customer spending habits, because it does make a difference. We talked in the last episode, maybe it was the last live that we did, about places like McDonald's and other fast food restaurants that are really struggling with getting people in, because again, their clientele tends to be the people who are hurting the most right now. And so when their prices go up, people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to spend $10 a meal for fast food anymore. Like, I'll just buy cheaper food at the grocery store. And so it's this weird shell game where people are still going to be spending money. People are still going to be buying food and buying items. It just comes to where they're going to do it, right? So again, that's why some people move to thrift stores. That's why some people are going, because they still need to get certain items, but it's how are they going to get those items?
Yeah, which actually leads us to the last reselling topic here. So I've seen multiple stories about this, So I just picked one randomly and ended up being North Dakota. And I thought, if this is happening in North Dakota, then it's probably happening in the cities and more, metropolitan areas. So it said, this is from KFYR in North Dakota. More people turn to thrift stores as inflation continues. This in Bismarck, North Dakota, with the dollar losing value and prices climbing, people are searching for alternatives to help their wallets stretch further. That's evidenced by the increase in shoppers. Local thrift stores like Seeds of Hope say they've been experiencing. Between the racks of clothes, you might just spot a regular like Bob, Tekepe, whatever. It says, I'm just looking for odds and ends and collectibles. Like you said, not everybody who's in a thrift store is a reseller. You can find a lot of items for a lot less money, and a lot of items are new or like new. Manager Lisa Turns has been in the thrifting business for 12 years, so she knows how to spot a trend. Within the last year and a half, I think we definitely had more traffic, and our sales have definitely shown that as well. And so they've increased 10 to 15% on profit and even more. And so, we had talked about this a while back, how during this time and whatever language people want to use, right now, the fact that, interest rates haven't been cut yet, to me is evidence that, things haven't gotten that bad yet. I think they will get cut when things get bad, because they're going to have to, kind of upstart the economy again. But I do think right now, if you're sourcing, you are gonna face a lot more competition at the thrift. I do think this is gonna create more competition on eBay, where more people, instead of going to eBay, may start going to thrift stores. Because the nice thing about going to a thrift store is you walk out with something, right? Where eBay, you kind of have to look for stuff, and if you find it, you got to wait a few days. So I think it's a catch-22. I mean, with eBay, at least you can be more selective. But I think that and possibility of prices being cut, I think volume is going to be king. I talked about this on the live on Monday, that if you're trying to resell and you're trying to go from part-time to full-time, or you're just trying to create a nice, cash flow, it's going to have to be volume right now. And so you keep your costs low, and realize that if you're going to the thrift store, it's going to be more competitive. But even the prices are going to go up, right? Because if they see more people showing up at the thrift store and people are still buying despite what the prices are, they're just gonna raise them a little bit. I mean, that's what happened here in San Diego. Like our thrift stores, I know a couple managers, and their business is crazy. I mean, it's crazy, but their prices are crazy too. But you know what? They're still selling. So nothing's changing as far as on the thrift store end. So anyways, just want to share that with you guys. I always say, if you're trying to source and your primary way of sourcing is thrifting, try to think outside the box and how to get to people's inventory before they ever donate it. And I'm not saying go out there with a sign in front of, the store that shall not be named saying, I'll buy your stuff cash before you donate. Don't do that. But there's always people trying to make local deals. There's always individuals that are trying to offload. Maybe you create, some kind of ad and you throw it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Because a lot of people are able to get that inventory all the time. So that is our reseller topics.
Yeah.
All right, hey, before we move on to our bolos, if you yet haven't signed up for Vendu, please do so. You get a nice discount by signing up for Vendu. You go to the link below and you use our code Pure Hustle, and I believe it's 25% off. I think the first month. It's a great discount. Vendu is a great way to be able to cross post your items really easy, and it's nice because they have background removal. It's actually better than eBay's background removal. It allows you to list on Mercari and Grailed, and hey, guess what? Depop in June, no fees. No fees. So if you want to start listing on Depop, you can use Vendu to do that. So use our link and the code Pure Hustle and get that discount. All right, Mike, let's talk about some bolos.
Yeah. This is one of our favorite parts of the episode.
Bolo. What's your bolo?
All right. So we all know about bows, right? Like I remember last episode when I mentioned Matco tools, I mentioned the fact that like everybody knows Snap-on, right? It's like a household name. Matco is also really popular, but for certain people, at least myself, there's like it's not as known, right? But then there's some items that are even a higher quality that are even less known because they're just kind of outside the normal realm of people who aren't collectors and into it. So there's a brand called Bang & Olufsen. It is they produce various electronics, but mostly like audio stuff. The logo is just like a B and an O. Look it up, Bang & Olufsen. This company, their stuff, oh my gosh, I've only seen a handful of items, and the people I've seen that have had them at garage sales kind of knew what they've had. So the prices were up, and it was earlier on in my reselling career, and so I was like, okay, I'm not really willing to spend like $600 right now on this CD player or on this item.
Yeah.
But just be on the lookout. Their stuff looks a little bit more spacey. That's kind of one way of seeing a lot of their stuff. A lot of their audio equipment looks a little bit more like futuristic. But even like if you can pick up their CD players or their different speaker systems, you will make a killing. Like it is not uncommon for one of their systems or just like one unit to sell for several $1,000s, right? So this is likely an item that you're not going to find very often at a garage sale or a thrift store, but you never know, right? I've been in estate sales where people just don't know what people have. And so just put that one on your like radar in the back of your head, be on the lookout. And that's part of what some of these be on the lookouts are. It's not just the hot item, new trend, but it's just things that could make you a ton of money. We've had people tell us, like, for instance, I mentioned in one of the very early episodes of Pure Hustle podcast, Shure microphones, right? And right, I've seen some people in our comments say like, hey, I found this Shure microphone set and I sold it for like $800.
That was
like,
one of my hustle of the week.
Right? So yeah, you never know. So keep an eye out for Bang & Olufsen. You probably won't ever see it at like a lower end place, but you never know. And if you do, swoop in on it.
How do you spell that again?
So it's B-A-N-G, bang, and then the word and then Olufsen, I think Olufsen, okay, I think. Okay. Something like that. All right,
we'll definitely give it a... Well, your bowl is far better than mine. Mine is always a consistent seller, at least when it comes to Christmas. So this is going to be a funny one, but very specific. But a lot of people miss these. And I guess now I'm just going to kill my own market. But Mr. Christmas bells. So usually they're bells that, you can either put along the mantle, usually, or sometimes they have them shaped in a tree. But I got to tell you, these Christmas bells, they're pretty durable. Whenever I pick them up, I've never had a bunch of bells that didn't work. They stand the test of time, and you can always get them for like $2, $5. Like, people don't want to deal with it, but they're quick sellers, like $50 to $70 consistently, even used. And there was a time I remember I think I went like a month and I picked up 5 or 6 of them for $2 a piece. And I sold, I remember one for 80, one for 60, one for 70. And so keep an eye for those. I mean, we talked before about Mr. Christmas. Pretty much anything Mr. Christmas, you should always do a lookup. But I would say the bells, they definitely do well. And believe it or not, summer is when people buy these things. They're trying to get ready for Christmas. They want to make sure that they have their decorations in order. And so that is my bolo.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
So I've got my vacation coming up. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be nice. And then we're going to probably do something a little bit different for the next couple of our Monday episodes. So I'm leaving here pretty soon. So in the next day or two, I'm going to come up with some content to produce. That's kind of like the old stuff I used to do, right? On Saturdays, maybe a garage sale video or something like that. So I'm going to come up with something, and I'm excited to do a new type of content for Pure Hustle Podcast. I love making new stuff. And kind of testing the waters and seeing what our listeners enjoy. What about you?
I got so much going. Well, I'm looking forward to sales rebounding. That's the first one. And so I'm going to do what it takes. I've always said I'm going to keep doing this. And, if this is kind of a thing for me to start maybe moving towards more into part-time, maybe that's what happens. Luckily, I have other streams of income, and so it's not like the end of the world right now, but this can't keep going on for a week or 2 or 3. I mean, by then, what I'm just spinning wheels to make a few bucks. And so I got to take a look at that. I am looking also forward to downsizing my inventory. I've talked about this on the Discord before, where I've had, close to 3,000. I'd like to get to 1,000 good items. Right. I love seeing the success stories of people that have stores that have like 500 items, and their sell through is incredible. Right. They have just as great sales as I used to have with a sixth of the inventory, or, a quarter of the inventory. I think that's kind of nice. I think, if you're a brand new reseller, now is the time to start taking a look at sell through and all that. I think a lot of the things that are keeping me down is when I started reselling full time back in 2018. At that time, there was no discussion of sell through rate. There wasn't any promoted listings. It's pretty much, you source something and there's comps that say that's sold, then your stuff will eventually sell. Well, that time has kind of ended. So I need to figure that out. I may be moving, who knows, in maybe a year, maybe less than a year. And so I just gotta work on some of this inventory. Right. I understand now what you're saying. I understand with Fernando, who's one of our good friends, Funky Comedinas on Instagram. I remember he sold me all the stuff in his garage, a really good price. I'm like, why do you sell it? He could have just taken this with him and keep reselling those items over where he moved to. But I get it now. Like, I think about the pain it would be to move all this inventory. And so I'm not looking to do some crazy major liquidation, but I definitely want to move stuff. So I got to start planning that out. And yes, the podcast will continue to be here no matter what takes place. Mike and I will continue to drop episodes. But yeah, just looking forward to that. So, hey, make sure to, as always, make sure to tune into our episodes on Spotify, iTunes, wherever. But if you haven't yet, jump on over to YouTube, subscribe, and like this episode. It lets people know that, another Pure Hustle Podcast episode has dropped. So hopefully this episode helped you out. Maybe just allowed you to think about some things or gave you some noise in the background. With that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.